When I was taught by my mom about asking for help, you should be ashamed. And I realized that over time that I shouldn't be ashamed. You're basically helping yourself and helping the teacher as well. And sometimes I get the feeling of like, okay, I will ask for help and I feel great. But other times in my mind, I think, oh, I feel really bad because I disturbed the other person's time. So really, that sort of sense where like, eventually it led to me not passing is kind of really my own thoughts because I always thought it was too hard.
What I want my college to know about me is that I'm technically challenged. I'm not good with computers. I'm not good with anything that concerns technology of any sort. I can manage, trust me. I can figure it out if you teach me for a little while, but it gets hard on me, especially now. I have too much grasp on Wi-Fi. With me doing online courses, it's kind of getting a little hard, if I do say so myself. But if that's one thing I want to tell my college, then that's about it, really. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jonna. I am currently a UH West Oahu student. I transferred from Honolulu Community College to UH West Oahu to pursue my degree in creative media. I am currently a full-time student working 2 part-time jobs. So I do 12 credits each semester in order for me to graduate within the next fall semester. And I wish my college knew that I was doing all of these things on top of attending school during a pandemic. And I wish my college knew that even though it's great that the colleges are opening campuses for students to learn in person, I think because of the COVID cases rising, I personally don't feel comfortable going to in-person classes just yet. But I really appreciate the effort from the universities of trying to support the students who need the finances in order to continue their education. Thank you.
I wish my college knew that dealing with freeloaders or social loafers are really stressful, and I have to end up carrying the work because some professors don't care if someone was not doing their work, and so because it's a group grade, it all rests on me or the rest of the group to carry that one person. I don't like it when teachers change the syllabus or their schedules too often. It really gets confusing, and I already have plans or doctor's appointments, and then I'm expected to turn something in at midnight when I'm super busy. It's really hard making friends. I'm 20 years old right now, and I had friends before the pandemic, but I feel bad for those who just joined college and during the pandemic, and it's really hard to socialize with your classmates and even keep up with them, and that really does ruin your support system. It's really stressful switching over. I switch between 2 UH system colleges and they won't switch my health records over, and so I don't understand if we're a system or if we're not, because if we are, it should transfer over. Stress to me is dealing with a lot of things at once. And so when I'm dealing with classes and work and different personalities, on top of that, I have to worry about my family and my room and all my siblings. It's a lot to deal with. So when things change spontaneously or when I have to deal with something, it really gets me down. I can't finish my work. I can't keep up my chores. I can't keep up what I'm doing at work. It brings me all the way down, and I have no motivation to continue if it's all gonna keep pushing me down.
Aloha mai kako. O Samko inoa he haumana vau I ke kula nui o Hawaii ma Maui nei. No leila, ve'alina me ke aloha. Our queen said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Today more than ever, we should be listening to one another rather than the propaganda. As iron sharpens iron, we can sharpen one another. We need to truly live and learn and be what the meaning of aloha aina really means. We shouldn't let money discourage us from living our dreams, our hopes and passion and vision, but we should be using technology to envision what it would be like to feed the homeless, to make affordable housing happen for our residents here, as well as be able to teach the younger generations what it means to be a global leader in today's world. We don't need more academic support. What we need is visionaries, pioneers. We need faithful ones, the gatekeepers who know what their ancestors did for them and the sacrifices they made so that they could hand something and make us better for us right now. No more bureaucratic barriers, but let's be better together. As we use our voice to share to the nations what Aloha Aina means, what that spirit of aloha means, I hope our college knows that we're just not an institution, but really we're ohana. My name is Sam Peralta, and I wish my college knew that we're not an institution, but we are ohana. Mahalo a nui.
I wish my college knew how grateful I am for Pai Kamana for providing services to our Native Hawaiian, low-income, and disability populations with peer mentoring and priority registration. I wish my college knew how grateful I am for the virtual tutoring services that students can use who have busy schedules like I do or struggling to complete assignments. I wish my college knew that I would like to help create a UHCC disability program where students with disabilities can be a student, take classes, meet new friends, and gain the real college experience. I wish my college knew that I want to see more bachelor programs and taking out the fees that students have to pay for courses since we may not use those services and it's an obstacle and financial strain on where to get the money to pay for the fees and tuition costs as well.
Aloha, my name is Bree Rodriguez and I am the student body president at UH Maui College. I also work in the student life office. Something I wish that my university knew is that we as students are trying our best, especially during these times that we are facing. I wish that they knew that it was very challenging for us as much as it is for them. But I also wish they knew how grateful we are for the strides they're making in trying to make our education possible in a time that we don't really have a lot of physical connection with anyone. They're still putting a lot of platforms out there for us to try and have some kind of physical interaction with our peers and with people who are like-minded. So thank you, University of Hawaii, and thank you, Maui College, for everything that you've done for our students.
Hi there, my name is Alex with Leeward Community College's Student Government. What I wish my school knew is that there are students in the UH system from all over the islands, various parts of the islands, which some are very isolated, as well as parts of the mainland. Online programs should be continuously adapted to these students' specific needs. It should be a priority in the UH system. I found Leeward Community College because there wasn't any program like this available on Hawaii Island. I'm so grateful that I found Leeward Community College, and their program should be an example for the rest of the UH system. Have a great day.
Aloha and welcome to What I Wish My College Knew. This is the first event of Campus Connections. It's a series of collaborative professional development workshops organized by the campuses of the University of Hawaii Community College System. And this week's event is being hosted by Kauaʻi Community College. But as you can see, it involves faculty, staff, and students from around the system. And so my name is Shauna Pabingwit, and I'm the Title IX EEO and Affirmative Action Coordinator at UH Maui College. I will be acting as the moderator for today's session. And as you may have noticed, there was a video playing as you enter today's session. It's a collection of student responses to the prompt, "What I Wish My College Knew." As you can see, students share many things about their personal lives and experiences as students on our campuses. And our hope is that by sharing these stories, we will be better equipped to serve them. We are lucky to have an esteemed panel of students joining us today, and they have so graciously agreed to share their stories and answer your questions. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce them. From Maui College, we have Bree and Jacqueline. And from Honolulu Community College, we have Faith. Joining us today from Kapiolani Community College is Jenny. And from Kauaʻi Community College is Keiki and Scott. And finally, from Leeward Community College, we will have Kealohi joining us today. So once each campus has had an opportunity to share, we will open things up for questions. And so you can feel free to unmute yourselves or also put any questions that any faculty or staff have. You can enter that into the chat if you would like. And on that note, I would like to turn it over to our student panel, beginning with Bree from Maui College. And Bree, please tell us what you would like us to know.
Aloha everyone, my name is Bree Rodriguez. I'm from UH Maui College. I play a lot of roles here at UH Maui. I actually work in the student life office. I'm also the president of student government and a president of our new leadership honor society that we just brought to campus, NSLS. I know that it's not new to a lot of other colleges in our system because some other colleges have already adapted to NSLS, but this is actually our first semester incorporating NSLS into our school, and it's going really well. But I kept my initial video pretty short and sweet because I am very thankful for everything that UH Maui College has done to kind of put efforts forward to giving us more of a platform to meet other people, especially with the mobile app that we've incorporated into our everyday lives. And I think a lot of students are meeting each other there, having talk story sessions with each other on the student board or dashboard that they can talk to each other with. So I was really wanting to put out there that I am really grateful for UH Maui College and also for Shauna. She does a lot and she always tries to get us involved and we love that. And I'm really grateful for our chancellor. He's so great with the students and he really is an advocate for students and he will do anything as long as he feels that it's benefiting students, and we love that so much about him. And it's great to have a chancellor who's an advocate for us because that's what we really need, especially in today's situation that we're facing with the pandemic. But a problem that I feel is really evident is the use of Laulima. So I brought this up before, and I know that Laulima is actually, it's hard to navigate for both students and professors, I can imagine. But something that is really hard for me is that all my classes kind of have a different way of laying out their coursework, and it can be really stressful because first of all, we're students and most of us are full-time students, some of us part-time, and that's okay too. It's still hard either way, but we also have lives outside of school. I'm a mom, I work a full-time job, and I play a lot of roles here at the college, and I don't mind it. I love a busy schedule, and that's why I overload myself. It's just I thrive that way. But with that being said, I think that Laulima needs a lot of work. Not Laulima itself. I think Laulima itself is a really good platform, but I think the way that teachers input their work into Laulima, there needs to be some kind of framework for professors to follow that they can all kind of, I understand that every class is different. I do understand that, but teachers are using third-party sites through Laulima when they can do the same thing through Laulima itself. Like we have this platform, yet teachers are still sending us to third-party sites, and it's kind of tedious in a way. I think that's a good word. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's so many tabs on Laulima. There's so many different ways that you can format your work or deliver work to students. And I think that there needs to be a more uniformed way that teachers or professors do it, meaning that all professors should be required to kind of set up their work in the same way so that we're not constantly trying to figure out, okay, where does this teacher want us to turn it in? Where does this teacher want us to turn it in? Where does this teacher want us to turn it in? Oh, is quizzes and tests taken on Laulima? Are we going to a third party site? Is my book going to be found here? Is my book going to be found there? It's just really confusing. And I think that it's been an ongoing issue with a lot of students. And we've had a lot of complaints here at our student life office since the beginning of the semester, with students just not knowing how their teacher wants their work to be turned in. And if a student is working really hard to get their work done and they can't even figure out where to turn it in, that's already a problem because we're stressed as college students as is. And if we're gonna be working hard, then it should be easier for us to turn in our work. It should be easier for us to find what we need to do. It should be easier to lay out your coursework that you're gonna be seeing throughout the semester. But I'm gonna I don't know if I can do this, but I was gonna let Jacqueline talk a little bit about it as well, if that's okay. Or was it gonna be someone else? I'm not sure. Sorry, Shauna.
Yeah, that's fine. Jacqueline, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay then, should I just talk about support Ree's point, or should I go ahead and integrate into my points?
I think you should, you can talk a little bit about Lalima and how you feel about it, and then go into your points.
Okay, yeah, so Bree makes a lot of really excellent points. You know, this is like my first year of college, and transitioning to La Lima, just coming from my older, you know, high school site, it was a transition, and I personally found it was kind of confusing, you know, when different instructors would require different uses of La Lima. So I definitely agree that some standardization would be useful, not just for us, but I know it's for my instructors too. A lot of them had a really hard time utilizing La Lima, and they had some complaints that it caused them stress as well. So I think on the side of both students and teachers, it would be really great just to have some more standardization with La Lima, maybe not requirements, but maybe suggestions, you know, to help them plan their courses out and plan how those courses are supposed to deliver their work. So I'll go ahead and move into my points. First off, I want to tell all of my instructors how much I really appreciate all of the hard work that they put in. As I mentioned, this is my first year of college. And you know, it's really tough because it's a pandemic, right? And we're all struggling, but they've worked really hard to make sure that they are addressing like all my questions, which is something I really appreciate because I have a lot of questions, but they all help me really absorb concepts and keep them in my mind even after the semester is over. More so the thing that I really want to bring up to the faculty is I just want to encourage you all to keep using Zoom. I know it's frustrating. I know it's new and it can be really frustrating to use sometimes, but Zoom has really opened up a ton of class options to not just me, but many of my fellow students that I never thought I'd be able to use. I was able to take a course from Leeward through a Zoom class, and it's one of my favorite courses I've ever taken. It was a Hawaiian history studies, and I loved it a lot. It was great, and my instructor was amazing, and so I'm so thankful that I was able to have that experience through Zoom. Even though I don't go to Leeward, you know, I was still able to go and attend these Zoom classes and have an instructor that was really amazing. Another thing is it's really great, personally, something for me, I don't own a car. And so when I go to campus, I have to bus there. And if I have a 9 a.m. class, I have to be up and busing at like 6 something in the morning. And then I might, depending on the time of the class, I might have to wait around at the campus for an hour. So I know for like bus goers and people who have a hard time commuting to the campus, Zoom is really great because with that, we just have to find a place with internet, which can present its own challenges, but often that can also be easier than, for instance, having a 3-hour bus ride or, you know, having to wait for bus schedules and coordinating with that. So I also know that Zoom is really great for that as well. Another thing I want to bring up about Zoom is I'm really appreciative to all of my instructors who record their sessions. Because I work really hard to attend every single class. I work really hard to attend every single class. However, there are times where like, I'll be like, oh shoot, how did they phrase this, right? Because instructors, you give really great explanations. So I think that having recorded sessions really works, especially for something like math, where you can go back and you can listen to the way that your instructor explained the concepts. So I just really want to encourage all of my instructors to keep using Zoom. And I know it can be tedious, but as a student, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Bree, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, I think she did a great job, and thank you, Shauna.
Thank you both, Bree and Jacqueline from UH Maui College. So next up, we'll have Faith from Honolulu Community College.
Hello. Hi, so I'm Faith from Honolulu Community College. Some of the points I did want to talk about were how the syllabus really bugs me. So I'm a student who likes to try and prepare ahead of class and try to make sure I get all my dates down, make sure I get major dates like exams and quizzes to make sure that the doctor appointments that I have to schedule aren't going to coincide with that. Because I know some teachers even don't have like a policy for that. If I have a doctor's appointment, they're going to tell me you should have canceled. And sometimes I have to schedule those appointments 3 months out. Besides that, I personally experienced with another campus. It was the week before school started. And so I ordered my book from one of the bookstores, and it came 4 weeks late, and we had a midterm quiz. I didn't get to read any of the textbook because of how late it arrived. The bookstore sent me a virtual code, not even a paper book. So you can imagine how upset I was that I had to wait 4 weeks for a virtual code. And had I asked the professor, he would have told me, well, you should have waited until the first day of class because I provided another link for you to buy it from. And so I had even told the bookstore, hey, where's my book and everything? And they told me, well, you can just go buy another one. And I went, why am I going to pay for 2 textbooks if you're not going to refund me for the first? So it gets really upsetting when you have to do assignments and you don't even have the material you need. And then on top of that, I've had professors who change their syllabus, or they'll say, I hate it when they put on the bottom of their syllabus tentative changes. And I understand if you're pushing things back, but when they suddenly are like, oh, we're actually going to do several quizzes today, or we're going to do this assignment instead of this, or I have some professors who are like, you can work ahead. And recently I just had a professor go, well, I'm actually going to switch the topic of this Flipgrid that you're supposed to do, which was like, had I done it ahead, I'd have to redo it. And her Flipgrids are, we have 3 minutes to go over a whole bunch of material, a whole bunch of readings. And so you can understand why that'd be frustrating. Some highlights I definitely have found were my grad assistants this semester have definitely been helpful. They have made, my grad assistants and my TAs, they have made sure that I can contact them. I can make appointments to talk about my research projects, and I can make sure that I am getting the right material. If I can't find one of the readings because the professor messed up and they put it in a different week, I can easily message my grad assistant or TA and they'll help me find it. But that was definitely one positive of this semester for me. And I personally enjoy having tutors. Even though I don't use them as much, they help me a lot through my first and second semesters at HCC, as some of the material, when it goes so fast, you don't have the time to ask your math teacher who has several other students who also need help at the same time with different things. And so the tutors were another saving grace of mine.
Thank you, Faith. Awesome job. And so joining us today from Kapiolani Community College is Jenny.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. My name is Jenny. I'm from KCC. I mean, this is more of a rave if anything, but I just want to say a huge thank you to all my counselors. Like, I'm really needy when it comes to like, oh, am I doing these classes? Like, what courses do I need for next semester? What if I take like less classes? What does my class like overall looks like? So I guess one thing I wish my college knew was like, I guess the importance of reaching out to students and answering their questions when it comes to academic support, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like I don't know when I first started STAR, when you have to map out your thing, I had no idea. So I had a counselor walk me through every single step. And every semester I go back to her to make sure everything's on like a schedule. But I think that's just very important on like just checking in with your students and being like, hey, like, how's everything going? How do you feel about your classes? How's everything moving forward? Like, do you need me to connect with you and stuff? And I found that super useful on the counselor side. And the other girl was mentioning about textbooks, and that like brought me up on STAR. I know they have IDAP, which like they put how much it costs, but sometimes there's like it's not included in there and I have to buy it when I'm already registered for that class. So I'm like, wait, didn't I already pay for this class, but now I have extra like fees on top of that I didn't really know of. Like textbooks are very expensive, so it's not really a pleasant surprise for me. So I think maybe more transparency with like how much classes are going to cost at the end of the day would be great before registering. So I think, yeah, those are the main two things. Counselors are doing really good, especially you guys implemented the STAR thing where you can like get set up a time to meet them on STAR, which I think is a great way to like schedule meetings instead of emailing, and then just like be more clear on how much a class would cost at the end of the day.
Thank you, Jenny. And so from Kauaʻi Community College, we'll have Keiki and then Scott will do their portion.
Oh, are we unmuted? No, okay. Hello, everyone. My name's John Austin Keiki Loakweloli Kokulo. You can call me Keiki for short. I am the student government president for Kauaʻi Community College. I'm currently majoring in business, thinking of changing or probably adding on to my major educational administration to it, and kind of around that bar. Yeah, so working off of Faith, Jenny, and Bree, and Jacqueline, it is pretty amazing, like how much obstacles we're given as students when we're going through our college experiences in different ways. For me, it's been technology. I'm not good with a computer. I'm kind of like that old school learner of meeting someone face to face, meeting a teacher face to face, getting the paperwork together, learning in class. That's usually how I excel. But kind of going off of online, it's been kind of hard, especially with my situation. So in the past couple weeks into the semester, I got it was during the video I produced. I got given the results that I was positive for COVID. So I didn't have the internet that I would usually use from campus. I would ride the buses, go onto campus and use the Wi-Fi to do homework and assignments and try to get it in before the due date. Usually I try to aim for like a Monday or Tuesday before Saturday, because my internet at home is fairly unusable. Sometimes I use my mom's Wi-Fi, but she's in like a separate part of the building and the connection's not that great. Sometimes I use my phone if no one's at home because they might go to a hotel or an outing somewhere, and that's not really useful. One prime example would be I'm currently taking a course Business 120 with my teacher, and some of the assignments I have to turn in at the sorry. Some of the assignments I have to turn in through Lolima, through the Dropbox. It has that loading thing that you need to do, like you drop your assignment in and you'd have to wait until the thing completes, and then you press continue or something. But since my connection is so low, sometimes it takes like a while for it to download. I fell asleep one time thinking that the thing completed. Once I woke up at 12, it said error, and it said like server 404 not found, and Laulima kind of logs you out because of that time restriction. So I have to redo the whole process and stay awake. Thank goodness for Red Bull. But yeah, it's kind of difficult for me in particular. I don't know if other students are feeling the same way with online courses, but for me it's kind of bad. And I have applied for emergency relief funds, but then situations prop up that I can't even fathom how those happen. Like we got our old house back that we were trying to sell, and we got 2 sets of bills to pay now, 2 sets of utilities, 2 sets of water. So all the money I got from my relief fund to pay for my own Wi-Fi personally were kind of cashed up to 2 houses that we didn't know we were going to get back. Didn't sold well. We're going to try and fix it up. Yeah, really, really bad for me. But that's about it. That's for me.
As for me, I am Scott Tamayo. I'm from the island of Kauaʻi, but I'm actually doing distance learning from UHCC Oahu. My bad for noticing this, but I'm in class right now. But I will talk about what I said in the video with everything that I've done. So usually I think when it comes to learning at home, like you basically learn from your parents for the most part. And they teach you different beliefs and everything like that. Or sometimes they may think their stuff is right and sometimes it might be wrong. But one of the things that my mom always kept telling to me was that you should be ashamed about asking for help. And it kind of like really irks me because at home there's a lot of personal issues that could be from emotional to like just things that like tasks that can't be done. So one of the biggest things that led to that was basically our house kind of looks like a hoarder's house. There's so many things in the house that it's kind of hard to maneuver around the house. And I was hoping if I was able to ask for help and everything, but even if I did, and it was in one instance where I asked one of my friends who used to go to the college over here, and I know him for ever since my childhood. Whenever I asked him for help about cleaning the house, and we did, right after we did clean the house for like a little bit, she would say, "Oh, you should be ashamed for asking your friend for help," like that. And that kind of really did annoy me in a sense. He helped us, but yet, like, really, that's kind of brutal. So that whole mentality about that to me kind of followed through with like school sometimes, where like, okay, you think you got this, and maybe you shouldn't really ask for help because of certain things. Like, let's say you might disrupt their time, which really isn't the case. Like, they're really trying to help you and they're trying to help everyone succeed. But if that belief is really strong enough to where like eventually you may not pass the class, it's kind of really difficult on one hand. So what I'm kind of trying to say is that maybe your personal life could be really affected towards your school life. But I will say that even though that they're both separate, sometimes they have to come together, right? Sometimes you really gotta ask for help instead. Follow what you believe in instead. And basically, they'll help you out. And over time, yeah, you basically make connections and will be stronger as a group. And I guess on a separate note, to add with the teachers and everything, even though we could also think of them like they're mainly instructors, I kind of want to a little bit talk about get rid of that whole ideal. They're still our peers, right? Basically, they're still people at the end of the day. People just like us sometimes, like maybe they had a hard time at work, maybe they'll get home, talk stories and stuff. And I feel like it should be like that. And maybe instead of like, okay, thinking it's maybe a couple 50 something students or whatever, how many students you have as instructors, like maybe think of them as friends, right? Like at least keep up with them, talk up with them, like maybe not like, I would say near the end of the semester if they're struggling like that, but keep up with them every week, of course, because we're all peers at the end of the day. We gotta make everything better than just keep it everybody apart. Like that's the one thing I kind of focus on as well. So that's basically what I have to say.
Thank you, Kiki and Scott. So yeah, they're from Kauaʻi Community College, and that was awesome, Scott. So we are trying to promote that we are, one Ohana. So again, thank you for that, because never be afraid to ask for help and make that connection. And so finally, from Leeward Community College, we have Kealohi joining us today.
Thank you. So start with introductions. My name is Kealohi, what goes fully as Kealohi Lani Leleo. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I do go by Kealohi, and to give a little background of me, of my experience, I am a concurrent student between UH West Oahu and your community college, with this being my last semester. So definitely, I know from like the 3 years, and then this last year was kind of crazy with 2020. But for me, I wish any of my colleges knew, or even this University of Hawaii, I would say is, I wish they knew that students had to move. Students were homeless while taking classes. Students were not living in the houses that they were living in, not living like while trying to do that, get that A or get that grade, passing grade, just to get our degrees. We were homeless. Just in my ends, just myself during last semester, or even once 2020 hit, it was like, all right, I was okay with the virtual online because I was already, West Oahu is mostly online for most of our classes before COVID. But it got worse because then I had to like that blend of home and school, but also too, then home became this thing of finding out a home that I've been living in for 10 plus years, all of a sudden is sold. All of a sudden land, even though Ige had the whole, that whole like thing about, oh, you can't kick out your renters. Well, what if they're selling it? Can they kick us out? So that was like the year of like, okay. And because we didn't really know, nobody was really answering, giving us transparency. It was like, are we covered? Are we not? So it's like, okay. So like during that 1 year between 2020 and 2021, my family was prepping, trying to look. And then last spring was when the final move was. When it was like, okay, so I'm like in, and because West Oahu is a little ahead of the rest of the system. So I'm in my like last week of instructions and finals while also moving. And luckily it was in the same hometown of Waianae, but they were still like 30 minutes apart. Like, I'm just like, okay, let me do. And because sometimes it would be like over late. So I was just like, do I have homework today? No, I don't, luckily. Okay, cool. And then because I wasn't like, luckily my mom didn't cancel right away. I asked her like, can you not cancel the internet right away? For this house, for this old house, because I have finals and I need to write this paper. I was in my senior project for my sociology. And yeah, I'm also one of the students who thrive on academics, where I'm doing right now, I'm actually finishing off my 3rd bachelor's. So I was in three concentrations. So I'm finishing off this semester with and my last certificate. So then I was just like, okay, I'm in my senior project, let's do this. But also too, what I appreciated so much was my professors were like, okay, even though the semester ended, I'm gonna give you an I instead of a failing grade or whatever that grade, because they knew my situation. And now was the thing of like, normally I'm just like, okay, I got this. But then my pride, I had to like pull down my pride and said, no, what? I'm sorry, I am moving. Can I give you this at a later time? And that's the thing with students is that, and you have to be open to, because unfortunately, while I had the help, my sister, who is also a colleague of mine on my student government, she didn't get that help in her chemistry class. The teacher was just like, oh, I had students who were homeless who did this prior to COVID. You can do it too. It's like, wait, when did all students become the same person? And that's another thing about our college is that, yes, we have students, but each of us are individual. Like, even though me and my sister are family, we're still different. And we still do have different experiences and everything. And just in my own team, some of us had to drop student government or drop student life because home became too much. And to the point, actually, my team for like a good rest of the year, moving to Big Island, moving to Idaho. Like, my team was spread out through, as Alex in the recording was mentioning about being spread out between the mainland and the Kauaʻi. That was literally our team. He described it so perfectly. And even though right now, even though the one who did live in the mainland did decide to leave, we're still separate. Like, Alex is still on the Big Island and we're still spread out to where, okay, maybe some of us may not be on campus, even though majority is Oahu based. Some of us are still not going to be on campus. So we're not going to be as collaborative also too. And another thing was that some professors might be like, okay, well, figure it out. It's like, and also to another thing was like, they'll be like, well, you can just come to campus. Yes, that was the case. But as we previously mentioned about the bus riders, luckily, I got to get my license during this time. So like recently, so I am one of the fortunate ones now to drive easily to campus and I get to pass through easily. But I still have students that have to catch bus. And yeah, I would wake up, like, I live in Waianae and I have to go all over Pearl City. And even though people are like, well, you live in Waianae, why can't you go Waianae Moku? That's still a ride. That's 30 minutes. Plus, if Waianae traffic is perfect. And then you got the hour if from Waianae to Pearl City is perfect. Minding that the 40 is the only one that goes between Waianae and Pearl City. And that's going through Kapolei, going through Waipahu. And if those two are not perfect, I'm still on the bus. And I'm like, okay, I need to. And that's why I appreciated Zoom so much, where it's the click of a button in comparison to me running to Pearl City just for a face-to-face campus committee meeting that I'm going to sit in for 2 hours. And then, okay, I now have to catch a 2 to 3 hour bus ride home. And now that I'm really deep in Waianae, definitely appreciate it. But definitely it's that as much as we want you, like, we want, like, you know, like, okay, my professors don't understand me. It's like, give students that grace. That's all we ask, is for that grace. And then if you're going to expect your student to give you grace, we're going to expect it back. And that's what I try to encourage students too, when they're like, oh my gosh, my professor, they do this, do that. It's like, how about this? If you're going to ask your professor for grace, give it back. Because then if you give them grace, then it's going to keep going back and forth, where it's just like that perfect student-teacher relationship and continuous building. And then of course, once we get continuously, I just keep growing like that. And then throughout the professional developments of your department, and then grow to the next department and keep growing to the whole campus, eventually the whole system is going to give that. Because if we're going to call ourselves Aloha Aino, or even use the word aloha, why are we using that if we're not going to show it to each other? Or even as colleagues, students, faculty, staff, or even the parents that have to help the students pass this. And especially because we do have students who are parents, who K-12 is still being that weird for them. And yet we're not unable to help them. So yeah, that was just pretty much what I would like to share today. Mahalo for listening.
Wow, Kealohi, thank you so much for being open and sharing your story with us. You know, we have to be considerate and considerate of students that are constantly moving, and consider that not everyone's situation is the same. And, you know, bringing back that concept of aloha. Thank you, Kealohi. And P.S. I love your shirt. Be a voice. Yeah, so thank you again to our student panel members. We really appreciate, you know, as faculty members and staff, we really appreciate you all for being willing to participate in our professional development day here. And, you know, we wanted to hear from you folks and how we can improve our institution here and the University of Hawaii. And, you know, before I open the room up for our Q&A portion, I did have a question for our faculty members from one of our students that would like to remain anonymous, but the situation was what I would like my campus to know is that it's really difficult when I receive an email that requires quick action on Fridays. I try to be really proactive, so it causes a lot of anxiety when I am alerted of something urgent on a Friday and have to wait until Monday to address it. And maybe the question was, maybe you could send out emails like that on Thursdays or Mondays instead of a Friday. So if any faculty member would like to kind of jump in or add a answer in the chat, that's just one question that one of our students from the CC campuses had in mind that wanted to ask the faculty. Don't be shy, faculty. Our students aren't shy today, so yeah, if anyone can address one of our students again, would like to know, it is causes anxiety for them to receive emails that requires quick action on Fridays, and they would like to know if it's possible to send out emails that are on Thursdays or Mondays instead, or any suggestions, or if any instructors have similar situations that have occurred in their I have in the chat. That is a great point. We need to be mindful of how we communicate. Yes, thank you. So I'll be able to share this back with the student, but again, we have comments saying that it's an excellent suggestion to be mindful, as Kealohi put it too, you know, be mindful that not everyone's situation is the same. And then bringing it back to Scott too, that we have to make that connection, and sometimes it's not a good day for everyone, and just be mindful of what, you know, people may be going through. And Melissa Kunitzer just put in the chat, we can't assume our students are at the computers 24/7 or working on homework 7 days a week. Yes. And from Derek Snyder, hopefully each class will have established expectations for communication timelines and when replies to emails can be expected. So within, for example, within 24 to 48 hours. Great, thank you. That's really helpful. Just, you know, just making sure that we're all on the same page, and communication is key. So, you know, we can't make assumptions that our students will know what we expect of them. So just being mindful of that and keeping communication at its forefront. Thank you. And so what I'd like to do now is open the room for our Q&A portion. So you can address it directly to any student on the panel, and we'll have them highlighted, or if you have, if you want, you can address any questions in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourselves, you can raise your hand too, and we can have you speak through your mic if you'd like.
I just like to say I'm Jill Terizumi, Honolulu CC Academic Counseling. Just thank you for your testimonies, and it's helpful for us to hear as counselors on how we can better serve and how, you know, what you folks are thinking, and especially you're at home taking these classes, and sometimes we don't know how to help and we want to reach out, but it was really enlightening. So as an academic counseling side, thank you again for all the speakers.
So I do have a couple questions here. Let's see. So for the student panel too, there's feel free if you would like to answer, you can feel free to take a jab at it. But we have one question here. Mahalo for sharing all of your challenges. Are there any things that you would like to see more of, or things that are being done well?
I honestly would say that I would like to see more grace days, more like how one of the other students said, we're all people at the end of the day. But sometimes teachers, they forget that. And so like how you said, they expect us to work 7 days a week. They expect us to open our emails. I have professors who sometimes send me an email at 10 p.m. announcing homework that's due the next day. I've had times where I have had a long day and I can't turn in that assignment. And I've had one teacher who gives us 3 grace days throughout the semester where we won't get knocked off points. And I'd like to see more of that. But at the end of the day, how I see it is, if a professor can delay grades and delay grading, which is what they've set up how much work they're going to have us do. They've set up when they want it to. I think it's only fair that if you turn in grades late by a week, when you told us you were going to give it to us in a week or in a couple of days, whatever, the students should get some amount of time back as like compensation. Like, hey, I know I have a daily life and I know you have a daily life, and because of my error or my taking too long, then I'm going to give you guys an extra date or an extra day or two to do the work that you need to do. And because you do need that feedback to do the next assignment, especially when the assignments build on each other. And so when you don't get that feedback and the assignment is due the next day, it makes it hard to understand the teacher's point of view, and it makes it hard to schedule out your day and figure out when you're going to do that assignment if you haven't had the feedback yet.
Thank you, Faith. And so Bree also added in the, Jacqueline, you wanted to speak?
Oh, you can go ahead and share, Bree, first.
So real quick, Bree added in the chat, I personally appreciate asynchronous classes because I do not want to have to plan around a schedule. This is why I enjoy online classes, because I can make my own schedule on when to do work. I do not like to have a set time that I need to be on a Zoom. Jacqueline?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say something that personally has really benefited me is when instructors can give out their syllabi early. I've had various instructors hand out their syllabus at various times, but most recently I've had some that, like, you know, the day before they might attach it in an email saying, oh, we'll see you like in class tomorrow. But and this kind of goes back to what Faith was saying about like not making too many changes, right? Because I use the syllabus as it's intended. You know, I plan my schedule, I get those dates in. I'm very proactive with getting dates done, and I'm a very big scheduler as well. So when I have the syllabus, it's really great if I can have it like maybe even a week before classes start. Also because it has required materials in there. I believe Faith also mentioned having issues with IDAB. I have been lucky to so far not have any issues with IDAB, but I have heard many classmates who have not been as lucky. And so I think it's really great when, and I know this is not always an option, but it's really great when instructors can give out the readings for the first few weeks, at least of class, you know, for anyone who, or at least, you know, alert students to what text they will be requiring so that they can purchase them early, because, you know, we do live in Hawaii, we live in islands, you know, texts, especially if you're getting a physical copy, take a while to get to us. So just, you know, having a little bit of time to prepare beforehand is something that I found really helpful. And maybe a suggestion to instructors to maybe keep that in mind with either alerting us as to what material we need a few weeks before class, or you know, letting us have the readings for at least the first few weeks of class, just as a common courtesy to those, you know, while they're waiting for their text to come in.
Thank you. I'd like to hop in on this as well. Going off of what Jacqueline and Faith were discussing, it is very important that the instructor understands the student much more than just an individual that's taking their courses. They should see them as more of an individual that is looking to do the same things that they are instructing them to do. And for Jacqueline's case, it's a good idea to have instructors plan ahead for, like, if you're going to be ordering a book in, if you're going to try and get all of the items listed off of the syllabus in order to, like, participate in the courses. I've had that instance happen to me more than once, where I didn't have the book for a while, and we already had like 3 quizzes in. A good guessing here or there got me a B, but I'm not going to be that lucky anymore. Never going to be that lucky. I'm thankful that I'm from Kauaʻi CC, because some of the instructors on campus are really understanding. They do appreciate their students' feedback at times. I don't know the full roster around, but I've certainly been lucky to be in the presence of certain educators who value the time of their students, who understand what they're going through. And this is to other campuses, you know, larger campuses in the system, like, to really realize that those 50 students, though number-wise, they're living lives that somehow you can't comprehend. And you should really, like, if they're struggling, you should look after them. Like, they should be more valued or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking. Yeah.
Thank you, Keiki. Kealohi, you have your hand raised.
Yes. So I'm just gonna address all the questions that were given. So first, what I would like to see more is, yeah, I'm gonna call it like mental health days or week, to where, you know, like where you just take that week for your class, or even for the professor as well. Like, I'm not just talking about the student, I'm talking about like the whole class, where it's like you just set up that week or day of just, well, yeah, that week actually, of just like everybody take a break, because we know that during fall time we don't get breaks, especially during fall semester. We don't get a break, you know, because there, unless of course holidays, but then sometimes that's not good enough during the holidays, because it could just be, because we know that even though it's a holiday, there is still work to do, and, you know, or even acknowledging those holidays, like if it's on a Friday, that kind of thing. Just allowing them to where it's like, okay, acknowledge that holiday, like use it as an actual holiday, because if we were in person, we wouldn't come to class, we wouldn't really do anything kind of that. Another one is, I prefer asynchronous classes because of a student who's very involved in my campus. I get to schedule. But of course, sometimes that is not the greatest thing. If you're a student who is more, I need more face-to-face action kind of thing, synchronous classes, because, but then a way around it to help that is having like, instead of office hours, just like, hey, come in one time, it's like have office hours summary class time. You know, like if the students, you know, instead of like, especially if it's asynchronous and it's like, hey, I have a question, you know, like kind of like, hey, if you have questions or check-ins, because I have one professor who did that, who was asynchronous, and we had like these monthly check-ins, and it would just be like, anybody has a question about class, or here's everything in this unit that you learned so far, so that, especially because if you had papers or exams coming up, and also letting us know that
I might walk up to the
Right?
falls.
Okay.
Another one for student life, I would say is, so the way we do it at Leeward, it's mostly been through our social medias, whether it's our YouTube pages, our Instagrams, our, luckily now, our student life podcast that we had started, called What Up Leeward, Let's Dive Deep. And pretty much it's all of our different groups. It started with our intramurals, as they're the more face-to-face action people, and then they started to do more about health and sports and medicine kind of thing to help students be more active too. Student government just started it to where students can get more knowing what's happening on campus, know ways to just hear everything that's happening, or even just build the relationships even more about students, as well as right now what we are in the project of, and this is why I appreciate all you professors who use La Lima, because I know the struggle of setting up La Lima right now. I'm helping my advisor, Lexer, set up our student life La Lima, so that students can automatically get the more whatever announcements right away, get that straight away. It's coming from La Lima, because, you know, students look at things that come from La Lima more than, hey, this random email coming from somebody, because all NUH looks all the same to us. So there's, I've seen it myself where students actually might delete it. But I was just like, okay. But other than that, it's just finding different ways. Like for us, we recently got through using Padlet for Constitution Day, having Kahoot Zoom sessions, or just even like having students RSVP and now tell us like, you know, that's what they want. And we're also trying to find student interest forms to see what the students would like to see as of now. So that is it.
Thank you, Kealohi. Faith, you have your hand raised.
I wanted to add on to Kealohi's point of how hard it is to recruit student life. When the pandemic first hit, we had around 8 members, which wasn't very like big as Leeward, so to say. But as soon as the pandemic hit and we were told we're not allowed to work anymore because of budget cuts and such, we lost like almost everyone. And then we started getting told we can't telework, which was hard for, we were also getting told we can only do this as volunteer. And if you think about it, I'm already a full-time student and you want me to pay my bills through volunteer work, which I hardly have the time to volunteer in the first place, let alone get another job on top of this. So it's not really fair to students and student employees to tell them they can't telework when they already have to carry the workload of their own classes and the work that we have to do behind the scenes to set up those events for students, to set up the podcast, to edit the podcast. I've seen people edit our podcast and other podcasts from the other campuses. That takes forever, especially when they're trying to cut out all the ums or all those pauses or all those coughs. It's really stressful. And to tell us, hey, like we don't want to pay for you, or we want you to, I've had events that I have to run at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. and then to be expected to come on campus in order to get paid for something that's going to be an hour or 2 long at night. That's really, really unfair, because I don't think most teachers who have office hours, right, they're not, if you set up an appointment with your professor at, let's say, 5 or 6 after they've left campus, if they even teach at campus, and they're at home, it's not like you're going to tell them, hey, you can't get paid. And so I really am passionate about this, because I've seen so many of my coworkers have to like lose their job because they've spent so much time not being paid or having so much back and forth. It hurts, especially when people above us don't understand how it is our livelihood. It's what makes us money. It's what pays the bills, and it's not even that much. We're not getting paid $50 or $20 an hour. We're getting paid like almost $10, and to be told, well, it's like a fun job, and we're giving you leadership experience, and you should be thankful for that. Well, leadership experience doesn't pay rent, and so it's really upsetting, and we've had to deal with it a lot on several campuses, I've heard, and it's just a really tough battle.
Thank you, Faith. And Jacqueline, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to sort of latch on to the co-panelist, Kiloa. I really agree with her point, and sort of to address the question in the chat too about asynchronous versus synchronous classes. When I do have, I of course really prefer asynchronous with a Zoom, because personally I need that human interpretation of like textbooks. That really helps me, is when instructors are able to rephrase things and be all like, it's like this, and then I'm like, oh, and I'm able to, you know, latch on to concepts. So personally, and I understand not everybody's like that, personally I like that Zoom element. So for like completely asynchronous class, I think it's really great if there can be at least like an introduction Zoom, you know, to at least introduce students to their instructors, because I personally had a friend who was nervous about emailing their instructor because they had never met them and they didn't know what kind of a person they were. And so I think an introductory Zoom might have helped bridge that gap a little. And I think she also mentioned like how some professors would have Kahoot games. I know I took an asynchronous course that was for math, and math is not a good subject for me. But luckily my instructor, she was really awesome. Every time we had like an exam, she would hold a Zoom class. And even though it wasn't required, she would also record it. So those who couldn't make it, but still wanted that extra bit of engagement, were able to watch it, you know? So that was really great, because like, especially for exams and such, it was really great to have that opportunity just to talk to her. And I know it's not required, but personally for me, I think it is great to have that little extra element with asynchronous of where it's optional. You don't have to go, but for those who do need it, it's there.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And so Jenny, I'll have you give your answer, and then shortly after, Mahina has a question from the audience. Okay, Jenny.
Awesome. Yeah, I think one thing that we've been doing well at KCC is LumiSite. Like I was scared, especially a lot of my I guess activities is becoming more on campus. So I was like, oh, I don't know if it's safe. And I was like, even my family's like, are you sure it's safe? Like someone could have like COVID and like spread it. But I gotta say, you guys are on point with like LumiSite. You have to check in, you have to make sure you're like vaccinated. If you aren't, you have to have testing to prove it. So I would say the like protocols, like safety wise, is pretty good. I mean, it can always be better, but honestly, it makes me feel more secure coming to campus. And regarding which type of online learning I like asynchronous. When it comes to like math and like chemistry classes, I need that one-on-one element. So I believe that asynchronous is still good in that sense, but just having accessibilities to your professor's office hours is a huge help. So asynchronous, but like I need those office hours just to have like a tutor to help me with. So yeah. Oh, and sorry, the other question was, I guess student life. Competitions are pretty good. I remember, I think it was actually, I met you, Faith. I don't know who it was, but somebody at Honolulu CC, I remember paying like a fee and I'm like, what is this fee? And I'm like, well, I'm going to get that fee back. So I went into a competition at Honolulu CC and I won a t-shirt and I wear it proudly. I'm like, yes, it's not my really home school, but I like it.
Thank you, Jenny. So Mahina in the audience, you have your question if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. I did want to speak as an instructor to ask some questions to the students. So my situation is a little bit different. I teach a trade at Honolulu Community College. I teach cosmetology. So my students are in person and they're here 5 days a week. And they're here, 8 hours a day. So we're always together and we always try to ask them how they're doing, at home. We obviously can't push, but if we see people struggling, we're really clear about wanting them to come to talk to us. But, as Kayla was saying, if you are not doing well and you are, you want to try to push through and just, be as successful as you can with that help. A lot of my students don't make it. It's a very difficult program. It's a very taxing program. And so I wanted to, kind of hear your perspective of what would be more helpful, because it's been a month since the semester started and I did talk to 2 students already who were kind of struggling and say, is there anything going on? What can we do for you? How can we make it better? And that does help. And I think that's been successful. But is there something that you guys would like to hear or know or have access to that would help those students who really have a hard time coming forward and asking for help? Because inevitably almost every semester we'll lose one student at least to either grades or dropping out because they didn't want to come forward and say anything. So I just like your opinion on that.
Yeah, Lohi.
Yeah, one way, instead of asking, hey, how are you doing? Because, in Hawaii, our easiest thing is to say, I'm good. I'm all legit. That's our automatic response. The one thing I've been learning as a leader is one thing that my advisor does is she said, okay, let's just see what percentage are we functioning at? Like she'll ask, like, what percentage are we functioning? Is it like 0 to 10, 20, like by tens, and then as a vote, like, okay, who's functioning at a 20%? And it's like, you know what, hopefully by the end of this class we can. If not, come talk to me, how we can get you better into getting your functioning, or even like what your weather is. What is your weather looking like? So like this weather ball that I've learned from UH West Oahu, as well as they were where we're asking, how is your weather? Like, is it sunny? And that's when the metaphor comes, and then that's when you listen. And for some reason, even those students might say, they're gonna, like, probably at first some might just say, oh yeah, I'm sunny. But then eventually when they feel like you can trust, they're gonna start saying, my weather is stormy, my weather is windy, and then they might explain why. And that kind of thing of where you're not going to go direct, but you're going to use a metaphor. And if you know exactly what kind of metaphors and read in between the lines, then that's when you check on those students that says, my weather has been stormy this week, or like weekly or bi-weekly check-ins kind of thing of asking those kind of questions, or coming up with an icebreaker type of thing that allows them to show their mood. If they feel like, I don't feel like participating today, then that's when it's like, okay, then like don't push them to participate, or something like where they just feel they're safe. And that's the thing that where it's like the safe community of not only like physically, but emotionally and mentally, because some of them we don't know what's happening at home, where they're just like, today is not the day.
Thank you. That was super helpful. I appreciate that.
Sorry, Jacqueline, you have your hand.
Yeah, just sort of to tag on to that, really excellent points. I know I've been in classes where my instructor has been all like, oh, how's the weather going, right? And I love that example because it provides people to, use a metaphor, which for some people who aren't comfortable, that can be really, really helpful. So as a student who's personally experienced that, I definitely found that for my fellow classmates as well, it really opened up the area. Another thing to build off, I believe it was Scott who suggested this, but destigmatizing, like asking for help. I grew up with parents who were like, if you don't understand something, you have to ask for help because it's their responsibility to teach you it, right? But that's something not a lot of my fellow classmates have grown up with. And I sort of end up having this weird position where sometimes I've had fellow students come up to me and ask me, be all like, hey, you're really good at talking to the teacher. Can you ask her this, right? Or can you ask them this? And you know, I'm happy to do it, but I also want students to be comfortable to do that as well. So I think destigmatizing asking for help, and also destigmatizing, like, there's this sort of notion that you have to be okay, you have to have everything together, and sort of making it where, like, it's okay for students to not have everything together. It's okay for students to be having, you know, a crappy day or a crappy week. And I think that that might also really help, is because when, at least I know personally for myself, when I know that my instructors understand that I'm human and that I'm not having a good week or I'm not having a good day, and it's safe to come forward and to like tell them about that, then we can work together to like come up with solutions to problems. So that might be, you know, just a little bit of suggestions for you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Mahina, did you have any other questions for our student panel?
No, that was fantastic. Thank you guys. I mean, like I said, I have my students all the time, and we actually get really close because we're with each other. I'm with them more than our parents, their boyfriends, anything. I'm with them more than anybody else. So, you know, I'm trying to look for these sort of extra things that that I haven't thought of yet. You know, I do have a lot of extra time. I stay after school for like 2 hours every day for students that can, but sometimes there are just people that don't want to come forward. And I think those are both, you know, great points. You know, we say you can ask for help, but if you haven't been taught that you are able to, then they're not going to. And also like creating a moment for them to say in a way like, girl, it's storming outside, okay? And they don't want to say that they're just having a bad day, you know. So thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahina. Great questions. And so I don't know if you folks saw in the chat for the student panel, but just clarifying what you folks mean when you say asynchronous and synchronous. If want to make sure we are on the same page too. So there have been comments, Khalid commented on what the differences were, but if you folks disagree in any way, we'd like to hear from you folks. But if it's if that's how you folks view the classes too, if we can give a thumbs up. So Kelly mentioned asynchronous does not have classes that meet a certain time, so students may not have any interaction with their instructor, whereas synchronous have specified times that they meet as a class. Okay. Perfect, thank you. And so I did have one other question. We have about 10 minutes left of this. So one last question I have is, what is the best way to communicate with students? Is it email, Instagram, text, Facebook, etc.? Jenny?
We actually did a survey here at Kapiolani Community College. We surveyed our students, and the majority, unsurprisingly, said email on the way how they want the school to contact them. I think that's just the most direct way. I mean, if you get a text message, I would think it's like from a friend or one of my families. If it's Instagram and Facebook, some people don't use Instagram and Facebook, and they rather have like their school life and personal life different from that. So email's the way to go.
And Jacqueline?
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree that it is email. You know, I've had some classes, in fact, in one of my current classes, my teacher did like an anonymous poll to see, because she sends out like text alerts to alert people when homework's done. So she did an anonymous poll of whether we'd rather like text or email, and the poll did come back for email, but I think most would prefer La Lima, except for I know I've had this problem personally, and some of my instructors as well. Once you get in a certain amount of notifications through La Lima, it's like it stops sending emails to you, and that's how I know, because I'll get an email from La Lima saying, hey, you have X amount of messages, or you have like this thing that was sent through La Lima, but those notifications don't always come through. And even if I go into La Lima and I make sure that all of my notifications are turned on, I still have a hard time getting them. So that's why emails can be super helpful. But I think to Kiloa's point, where she was talking about how sometimes it's really hard because students get a lot of emails. And they don't know what's important and what's not important. So I think that it's also great to pre-establish that communication with your class and say, okay, I'm going to be emailing you so that they know when they get an email, to check whether it's from their instructor, and they know if it is from their instructor, they know what to expect, sort of. They know to look out for certain emails. And I've found that personally, that's very helpful for me when I'm sifting through my emails and trying to find the ones that are important. That's what I've experienced.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And right before I go to Keiki, folks, I did have a question for Jenny. Do you folks like receiving text messages? Or if you've ever received text messages?
I don't think I ever received a text message. I think, do I like receive? I think the only problem I would see from there, like I said, I'll be like, when I get excited when I get a text message, I'm like, ooh, who's contacting me? And then I see it's like a a text notification. And it's like, oh, you went over your data limit. I'm like, oh, like, so to answer your question in that context, I think it'd just be confusing, and I probably wouldn't like it.
I think, I'm sorry, I had to clarify. It's if you folks receive a text message from the campus.
Oh yeah, same thing. Unless it's like, if I was like, got exposed to COVID or something where it needs my immediate attention, that's that like huge. Yes, I would like it, but yeah, email typically, yeah.
Thank you. And Keiki?
Yeah. I go with the same thing. Usually the campus would text you if there was like a important event going on, or as Jenny just said, concerning COVID, like if someone's being done, but they also do that through email as well. My thing would be for what was the question again?
The email. I think the way to communicate with students.
Some students don't check their email too often, and I think that was from Jacqueline's case, because there's so much information being thrown at a student to pay attention to that they kind of get lost sometimes. Maybe that's the, but we do check some students check their emails. Another thing would be, our campus has a social media page that we use to disperse information out to students who are following us, and I think it's been also very effective on campus. Like they show the events. There's mostly some of the important things all through email. I think that's the best way to reach out to students, but there are other venues. Instagram is one of them, Facebook's one of them, that we can look at just to give out information, and then the students can reply back in comment sections or stuff. Yep.
Email.
Sorry, Scott, what was that?
I was also going to agree with everyone else on the email part, but I mean, sometimes it depends on like classes too. Sometimes, like if they're like big enough, maybe more than like 10 people, yeah, it would be email. Sometimes if they're small enough, then if they ever share like contacts, like phone numbers and stuff like that too. If it's that small enough, then maybe phone numbers and text messages would be fine. If it's that the case.
Thank you. And so we have time for one last quick question. How can we make asynchronous classes better for you?
And so, yeah, I was just about to address that question as well with the previous one. So yeah, students on Leeward, when we did our How Can Leeward Help You survey to our students, a lot of them did send emails to the Hawaii.edu account, but they also had the twist of send emails with videos. So like if it's like, you know, of instructions of how to do things or something like that, rather than just all text. Because especially if it's a really long email, then it's like, okay, can I hear it rather than just, you know, reading it? Because sometimes, because we also have to think about all the different type of learners too, where it's not all learners are just reading. No, they rather just hear it and then they memorize it and know exactly what to do instead of just reading it. Because then, and that's also too where, you know, like the model, like, you know, for certain assignments is like making sure that there is some kind of example of for students, like, and definitely make it sure like this is a model, this is an example of how you should be doing the assignment. Because when students just read the instructions, like even for myself, when I read it, I'm like, what does this mean exactly? Like, how do you want me to, like, what this should look like? And then it's like if the professor doesn't put it all in the assignments of exactly step by step, and then they're like, okay, going into the syllabus, and the syllabus gives almost the same exact way of doing it. I'm like, so somebody explain this. And so having those kind of things is like, especially if you know that big papers are coming or those kind of things. Also, as I was mentioning, having like those summary classes or summary virtual office hours where you just come as a class instead of just come as one person, you know, like having those optional Zooms, or even giving the student the chance to become student teachers, you know, like letting them run the class. Because actually my president, he's somebody who did this before. Like he was an unpaid TA pretty much, where he would host Zoom classes, Zoom things and everything for students. Like, hey, if you're able to, you know, let's all come together and have the Zoom studies, or, you know, summarize, and then the teacher's invited, you know, for clarification or anything, that kind of thing. So I think, and also to using week one as really the let's get to know each other, not using it as let's dive in, you know, because we have 16 weeks together, 15, you know, for courses. So it's like, can we spare week one? If we can't, then okay, make sure that, you know, dive deep at the end rather than the first couple of days, because students are still trying to figure out, is this class worth it? And then we don't want them finding out later down week 3 or 4 with, especially before week 3, because that's when we're supposed to already drop and change classes. And for students, it's like a syllabus can tell me a lot of things, but it's not going to tell me exactly what I'm expected of. Like, okay, yes, I have all of this. Okay, it looks too much. I'm out. But finding out that actually could have been the easiest class you could ever take, even though it looks so much. So definitely having that introductional week, and who knows, that could be the mental week of anxiety of first week, because especially for someone who is a freshman, whereas like, especially the COVID freshmen, so I'm like, I've been doing this all through K through 12, but K through 12 has a different system than us. They don't have the same system. It's not like, okay, yeah, they've been using Laulima all their lives. And having those instructional, how to do Laulima, how to do this and that, how to go through Gmail, like giving the tips of successfully using Google Drive and Microsoft Office, especially if you expect it.
Thank you, Kealohi. And Jacqueline, did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
Kealohi got it all. She, good job. Yeah, really agree there.
I just want to say thank you to all of our student panel members for taking your time out of your busy schedules to share your stories with us today. You all did an amazing job, and you know, we really appreciate you folks for participating and being willing to be open with us. And we want to thank all of you for those who helped plan and organize today's event. And if you missed the video in the beginning, it was put together by or videoed by our students, but put together by one of our staff members here, Deanna Reese, and she did an amazing job with putting that together. So thank you, Deanna. And finally, thank you for all of you who attended the session this afternoon, and we hope you found value in hearing our students' voices today. And so if you enjoyed today's workshop and want to attend the next Campus Connections event, please mark your calendars for Wednesday, October 27 from 3 to 4:30, when Kapiolani Community College will be hosting, the title is Reciprocity, Restoring Us to Relational Success. So it's a talk story journey about human connection, where you will learn how to build authentic and meaningful relationships in all your areas of life. And Zoom links and further information will come. And if you have any questions, please reach out to your campus professional development person. And finally, you'll be receiving a survey for today's event via email, and we appreciate any feedback you can provide. And again, thank you. Mahalo for attending today's session, and have a wonderful fall semester. Aloha.